in high school, the first job that I took, because I felt that's what I needed to take, was a busboy working at a restaurant under the table. I went in there, $11 an hour, and I thought that was great, right? I was like, this is good, first time job. Ended up hating the conditions there. I had to speak up because I had to speak up. I had to tell people what I was going through. I had to tell people that after I graduated, I was scared, genuinely scared of what I was going to do, because I didn't know this person. And obviously, I'm not going to share it because I don't know how open they are. But they took their inability to travel to other countries into a business and a brand that now helps other people travel to other states as an undocumented person. And I was like, that is a beautiful example of how somebody can recycle their struggle. And then you're watching this video, I want to just remind you that you're amazing. I want to remind you that trust the process, do what you can with what you have. So this past week, I actually asked ChatGPT this specific question. If you were the devil and your goal was to prevent an undocumented student from reaching their full potential, what would you do and how would you do it? And what it told me was shocking.
Welcome to Undocumented Startup by Juan Hernandez.
Now, thank you all so much for listening to today's episode. Now, I am going to ask you for a small favor. If you can please go ahead and follow the podcast, leave a rating and share it with a friend. I would really appreciate it. My goal is to get to 100 followers and supporters on here. So if you're enjoying the content, you find a little bit of value, go ahead and help me out by following the podcast. Thank you so much, and back to the episode. Hi, if you're new here, my name is Juan Hernandez, and I'm the founder of Undocumented Startup, and we are the leading entrepreneurship program for undocumented students. If you want more information about my programs, visit www.undocumentedstartup.com. Again, that is www.undocumentedstartup.com. All right, so the first one, it said to keep me stuck as an undocumented student. It was, I'd make you doubt yourself. I'd whisper, you're not good enough, you're undocumented, stay quiet. What would this do to us, right? It would make us second guess our ideas. It'll make us be scared to take risks, and it'll make us feel like a burden even when asking for help. And the result is that you wouldn't even try. As important. I think growing up, I hear it a lot, right? Undocumented people. When I was fully undocumented, I used to compare myself with my friends that had DACA. Now that I have DACA, I compare myself sometimes with people that are fully documented. All right, why do I do this? Because I'm questioning my self-worth. All right? And what happens when we graduate? Right? What happens when we graduate? It feels like while we're at school, we have all this confidence. And at the point of graduation, we start questioning, like, what are we going to do after we graduate, right? I felt that. Right? I felt that. All right, the second thing that it told me, it said, I confuse you about what's legal. You need papers to do anything. You wouldn't know about ITINs, LLCs, or business licenses. You never learn how to make money legally. You think entrepreneurship is off limits. And the result, you'd hustle in the shadows. There's a lot of things that I didn't know growing up. Right? I didn't know you can apply for business grants, kind of like scholarships for your business, $5,000, $10,000. Right? I didn't know there was entrepreneurship programs. Hence why I created one. I didn't know that certain universities have entrepreneurship resources like legal teams that I can ask questions on how I can legalize my business. And when you're a student, you have all the advantage in the world. Right? I didn't know that as you start working with bigger clients, you're going to have more paper. You're going to have to have insurance. You're going to have to have a bank account. You're going to have to understand how to send an invoice, what a W-9 form is. Right? In college, one of the things that I see the most is knowing your rights. That's amazing. But what about the number one thing that matters to us and that allows us to pay our bills, right? Money. How do we make money? Why is that not talked about? How do we make money? All right. And the most important thing to do here is first inform yourself of what are the laws and regulations. What can you do? What can you do in your state? Talk to attorneys on campus. That's going to help you understand what is actually legal or not. Okay. The third thing it told me is that it would keep me silent. Don't speak up, don't post, don't be seen. You wouldn't tell your story, you wouldn't apply real programs, you let fear lead instead of purpose. And the result is that no one helps you. Because no one knows you need help. This is really important. All right. When I was applying to entrepreneurship programs, I had mentors that would tell me, hey, don't share your story. They may not want to support something that is illegal, right? I was like, what did they even know? They're not in my position, right? What did they know, right? The other important thing is that when I was dealing with academic probation, subject to dismissal, about to get kicked out of UCLA, I had to speak up because I had to speak up. I had to tell people what I was going through. I had to tell people that after I graduated, I was scared, genuinely scared of what I was gonna do because I didn't know, right? But it was when I started speaking up, when I received more resources, right? When I started sharing my status, led me to a $10,000 scholarship as an undergrad. It led me to staying an extra year for my undergrad. It led me to getting extra time on campus for my exams, right? And telling my story led me to start getting paid. Like one time they reached out to me because I was doing photography. This Dream Center reaches out to me. They say, "Hey, we have this speaking opportunity. Do you come and want to speak to our students?" And I said yes. Little did I know, I wasn't expecting to get paid. I guess sent $60 through my Venmo account, and I was like, "Whoa!" So for all this time that I haven't not wanted to speak about my experiences, that I have not wanted to tell people my status, I am now getting paid for it. Isn't that interesting? There's this concept of from this motivational speaker called Eric Thomas, and he talks about recycle your struggle. Right? You already went through it. You already went through pain. Why didn't you make something out of it? Right? Make content out of it. Build a brand around it. There's a few people that have done this in the community that end up being successful. Like literally, there's this person, and obviously I'm not gonna share it because I don't know how open they are, but they took their inability to travel to other countries into a business and a brand that now helps other people travel to other states as an undocumented person. And I was like, that is a beautiful example of how somebody can recycle their struggle, right? But this is the most important thing. If you never speak up, if you never tell people that you're struggling, no one is going to hear you and no one is going to understand what you're currently dealing with. So they can't really give you help. So I always recommend that don't stay silent, right? I'm not saying tell the whole world about your status. What I am saying is if there's two, three people that you feel confident in telling, even if that's your parents, even if somebody on campus, tell them because that's gonna lead to another person connecting to another person, and eventually you'll get the help that you need. The number four one is one of the biggest ones, okay? I trap you in survival mode. Just work, don't dream, never dream. You'd take underpaid jobs. You'd feel bad charging people for your talents. You'd never learn how to build anything. And the result is that you'll stay broke mentally and financially. Man, this one hits close to home. When I was in high school, the first job that I took, because I felt that's what I needed to take, was a busboy working at a restaurant under the table. I went in there, $11 an hour, and I thought that was great, right? I was like, this is good. First time job. Ended up hating the conditions there. They as soon as I go in, they made me sweep. They throw me out there, no training, no nothing. But because I didn't know, that was what I was willing to accept. All right, that was what I was willing to accept. And I do see this within our community and with some of the students that I do connect with. Right, like they end up working at restaurants after they graduate, and I'm just like I understand it because it feels like the safest way. But we have all these networks, we have all these connections that we made in undergrad. You have these connections to professors, events that you attended, people on campus. Why not start by reaching out to people? You know what I mean? And it's not and really it's about shifting this mindset of just surviving versus thriving. Right? Surviving is making sure that I pay my bills, pay my bills, pay my bills, pay my bills. But it never allows you, it never allowed me to start thinking about the other aspects of life that do matter. It never allows you to start dreaming of the bigger stuff, right? Like, wow, like, and this doesn't just happen within our community. It also happens within some of my friends that are not undocumented, right? They have two, three jobs to make the amount of money that they need during the day, that they need for their expenses, but they come home so tired. They don't have time for anything else. And then there's other people on this side of the spectrum that are making 10K per contract, 20K per contract, 50K a month, 100K a month. right? So it's not just about surviving. Surviving is I'm taking this job and boom, boom, boom. Thriving is this is where I'm starting. How can I use this as an avalanche to where I want to get to, right? And I mean, this is something that happens too, right? Like even with my business, sometimes I feel bad charging people for my talents. But then you have to remind yourself on why you started this, and you have to remind yourself everything you went through to get to the point where you're currently at, right? Everything I went through at UCLA helped me get to building a Docu startup and where I'm at and what I'm charging and the way that I'm able to sell the previous role. And you have to kind of start looking at life that way. All right. And the fifth and final thing that it told me was, and the fifth and final thing that it told me was that it would make me feel alone. No one else is like you. You wouldn't see role models. You'd think you're the only one struggling. You'd feel like it is your fault. And the result is that you would isolate yourself and you would give up too soon. Right? Why do some people drop out? Because they can't connect with people. They can't find reasons to keep going. And sometimes it's hard to get motivated to pursue a career where you don't see your community there. Right? Like when I was in some of my entrepreneurship programs, I had friends that were making 500K. I had a friend that had raised $2 million, but they don't look like me. And you know how much power comes with people that look like me, and then they speak to you because they connect with who you are and what you've been through, right? And at least as I was going through the system and growing up, there wasn't a lot of role models like that. Right nowadays, I think there's a lot more. Um, but that's why, like, even with Undocumented startup, right? Like, the biggest thing is like, where are the success stories? What have people built? You know, you can't tell me that out of the 10 million undocumented people in the world, in the U.S., um, there's not at least a million millionaires. There's not at least a million millionaires that were able to make it and were once undocumented and how they navigated the system, right? So it's also about, okay, I went through this. How do I speak out about it, right? And maybe sometimes it's best to speak out about it when you're no longer undocumented, right? That's what some people do. Like literally, I connected with this founder that was formerly undocumented, got married. Now he's an investor close to the 7 figure net worth. And he was telling me, like, I resonate with so much with what you're doing. I applied to this other entrepreneurship program and they were telling me, like, I love what you're doing, you know? But the reality is that you're not alone. Okay, you're not alone. I mean, there's half a million undocumented students that are going through university, and more important than ever now, everybody's trying to figure out a way to monetize after they graduate. And one of the ways, and I've always said this, right, and it's not for everybody, but if you're able to start your own business, jump into it. You know what I mean? So it was just an interesting question that I asked ChatGPT, right? And I connect to some of these on a day by day basis because I do feel alone sometimes. I do feel like I'm in survival mode sometimes. I do sometimes don't want to speak out about Undocu startup. You know, sometimes I don't know what the legal stuff is there, and at times I also doubt whether this business will continue moving forward. But at the end of the day, the most important thing we can do is to continue finding solutions as we move towards this life navigating with what we have, right? What are the laws that we have that support us? All right, cool. What can we do with that, right? Right? Instead of staying silent, can we start building a brand? Maybe you don't share about your status, but can you start building something, right? That you can later monetize. It's another thing. Instead of being in survival mode, I was connecting with a student very recently, and he was telling me, "Hey, thanks to your program, I was able to create my own worker cooperative, and now I'm a owner member." And that makes me happy, right? Because you're like, okay, well, a little spark, a little seed planted, turned into a worker cooperative. So it's all about those things. Okay. So again, just some quick reminders, right? Like you don't need DACA to build a business. You don't need a 4.0 to change your life. And you also don't need permission to start no matter where it is you are, no matter where you want to go. Do what you can with what you have. Don't wait for everything to be handed to you. Life is difficult. I'll agree with that, but it doesn't mean that all the doors are closed, right? It just means maybe there's a redirection because there's something bigger, and try to figure out what can you do with your situation moving forward, right? Because I was able to overcome a lot of these things by asking for help, by putting myself out there, by constantly reminding people, by telling people. And yes, that means that sometimes you're gonna make mistakes, right? Maybe you tell somebody that you're undocumented and they start telling you like, go back to your home country. Because I've seen that in one email that I've sent. I've seen that in some of the videos that I post. But don't let that discourage you from pursuing what you want to pursue. In fact, I would argue that the fact that you are just existing as an undocumented individual and you're existing in this higher education, you're existing and you're trying to do something out of yourself, that's going to motivate somebody that was once in your shoes to continue moving forward, right? Because I mean, I don't even know how I've done this, right? But as I started sharing my journey, I started connecting with students. They're like, "You're an inspiration," I want to do this, but I'm like, "Yeah, but that was my journey, right?" Like, I mean, we're all unique. That's what makes us unique. Our own experiences makes us unique, all right? And even though, yes, like I mentioned, life is difficult, but don't let that get in the way of your success. I've always said this, right? Like, I'll be successful whether I'm in the US, whether I'm in Mexico, whether I'm in another country. I'll figure it out. All right. When I was about to get kicked out at UCLA, I said, you know what? I'm going to study for my real estate license, then figure it out that way. That was my plan B. Right. And that's the power of us. That's the power of our community, that we just continue fighting. We continue moving forward regardless of what is thrown our way. And we'll continue fighting until the day that we give up. But I don't see that. We're so resilient. And then you're watching this video, I want to just remind you that you're amazing. I want to remind you that trust the process, do what you can with what you have, and just continue moving forward. All right. So again, this wasn't meant to be a super long episode, but I did want to share some of the ways that you're being held back. Hopefully, this kind of gives you peace of mind. And let's just continue grinding. Okay, let's continue to stay positive and spread positivity. Let's continue building what we're gonna build. And remember, be motivated and stay motivated, baby. I'll talk to you soon. Bye bye.
Welcome to Undocumented Startup by Juan Maya Hernandez.